Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in today's Wellness Wednesday session with Onsurity. This is Abhishek, your new your mentor and your sort of coach for the evening, uh, and your moderator. Thank you so much for taking out time joining us today. And I think a lot of people are kind of out of office already vacationing because there's a huge chunk of stories that I'm seeing on social media. Everyone's out either partying or have gone on trips with their families. So very difficult to sort of get all of you back to another session. But I really hope this session is fruitful and beneficial for you guys. So thank you so much again for joining in. Today's guest speaker for the day is Sudhir. We have Sudhir Gupta. Sudhir Gupta is one of the most amazing people we've sort of come across in our panelists so far. And today's topic is something we couldn't have picked, without someone's expertise in that area, right? And we really wanted someone like Sudhir to come and moderate or, educate you guys about what exactly this is, because it really requires some kind of a very deep insight for one to kind of help you understand how energy management really works, because it's as complex as it sounds. I think you'll see in the session further how Sudhir kind of makes it very easy for you guys to understand. So welcome Sudhir Gupta in today's Onsurety's Wellness Wednesdays with me. Sudhir is a seasoned C-suite executive coach with 30 years of experience in IT and telecom, and he has experience in building a lot of organizations, cultures, ethos, uh, promoting work excellence, performance management, decision making, problem solving, professional and personal development, and a lot of other things, right? And apart from that, Sudhir is also an international coach uh, for brain based coaching and has mentored companies such as Honda, Accenture, Reliance, Coca Cola, and these are some really popular brands that we know of. But what's very important to know is that today Sudhir is taking out his 1 hour, probably even more, to come and enlighten us about how energy management really works. How can you become more productive by managing your energies, whether it is physical energy, emotional energy, spiritual energy, right, or your emotional energy. It's very important to understand how do you identify these energies, how do you fall under these quadrants, and what is the role of sleep, exercise, nutrition, optimization of these energies, a lot of things, right? So it's going to be a very nice session. I want all of you to be really attentive. Please keep your questions aside for the last 15 minutes of the Q&A, and Sudhir will take it up over there. And yes, thank you so much, Sudhir, for joining us, and welcome aboard. Over to you.
Thanks, Abhishek, and I'm humbled by the introduction that you gave of mine. I suddenly was wondering whether are you speaking about me or someone else. Anyhow, it's an honor to be with all of you. I think this is a very young crowd, and I just love the new generation because you guys think and work so differently. Your energy levels are always at a peak. But yes, today's subject is on energy. It is more to do with how do you manage it. When you have a lot of something, you sometimes lose the focus on how you're going to manage it. Whether it is money, whether it's energy, with whatever it is. Excess is always a problem, and so is when you don't have it. But many times we have it and we don't realize it. So energy is what we are going to talk about today. So I will just move to my presentation. So is this visible now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So energy management, the first and foremost thing is that why do we need to manage energy? Uh, because energy in any form, whether we talk about human energy, whether we talk about the energy as compared to whether it's electricity or anything, is all consumed. And whatever is consumed need to be replenished. And if it is not consumed in the most optimal way, you don't optimize the use of the energy, then you obviously don't get what is what you could have got from it had you planned it well. So let's think, let's take a minute to think and pause and we reflect about these things. What's your typical day like? These are maybe they look like very cliched question, but how many times do we really ask this to ourselves? How many hours is your typical work day? You can answer or you can put it in the chat, just to get an idea of what is the response. Abhishek, I hope
Yes.
you can use
Guys,
that.
the question is really simple. Please put it down in your chats. What do you think is your, usual work hour a day? Is it 9 hours, 8 hours, 10 to 11 hours? Okay, Harshita says 10 to 11 hours.
Any more
9
numbers?
9 hours, 10 to 12 hours. Okay. Minus 14 hours, which is ridiculous. Primarily also because I love working. Okay, Nusrat says 10 hours, 8 to 9 hours. So I think average around 9 hours, 9 to 12
I
hours.
would say 10 to 10 plus hours is what I'm hearing. So now
Right.
comes the next question. How many of those hours do you work without a break?
That's an important question. I think that's where all of us are going to have a slap on our faces because I think
I'm sure 14 hours you don't do without break. You do.
absolutely.
But how often or after how many hours?
Right. 7 to 8 hours. Okay. Ruchi says 3 hours approx.
It sounds okay. I would not say
1 to 2
optimal.
hours. Every 2 hours, I guess I take a break, says Rushali. Deepshika says 4 hours. Umesh, 3 hours. 30-minute break sometimes. I think Ravi says 2 hours.
No,
So I
no.
think somewhere between 30 minutes to 2 hours.
No, I don't think the person would have said every 30 minutes he or she takes a break. It could be the break is for 30 minutes.
Okay. Break duration, I think. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So not break duration. So the same person, can you answer after how many hours do you take that 30-minute break?
Deepshika, after how many hours do you take a break? 4 hours. Okay. She said 4 hours.
Okay. So most of you are at about 3 hours or 2 hours plus, 2 to 4 hours.
Right.
Okay. Fine. And then at the end of your 12, 14 hours, how do you feel? Just few expressions.
Yeah.
Fantastic, exhausted, dead, just raring to go. Which one?
Drained. I think
Any-
these are like common feelings.
So the which one is highest, Abhishek?
Exhausted.
But natural. If you work for 12, 14 hours, you will be exhausted.
Right.
So let's
Lazy potato. Someone says you feel like a lazy potato.
potatoes are lazy anyways. They don't move.
Yeah.
So what's the current reality is what we now look at. So we've seen how our day goes. You said 10 to 12 hours, 14 hours, you take break after 3 to 4 hours. And at the end of the day, you're totally exhausted. Most of us feel completely depleted. And by the time you reach home, you just don't want to probably talk to anybody and just sleep or whatever. So what is
Absolutely.
the current reality? You see, why do we do all of this that we did? We say we spend 10, 12 hours. Is because today's workforce, the work life is so demanding, and it is changing so fast that we are constantly, running against time. Whether it's your manager, your top man, your peers, you are constantly you yourself actually tend to compare yourself with the others and say, oh God, this person has done much more than me. So am I lagging? So I will put 2 more hours. Instead of 14 hours today, I'll do a whole nighter, and I'll catch up or cross that guy. So these kind of pressures are there constant. I'm just saying, and anyone disagrees or wants to add up can be put at the end when we have our Q&A. And at the same time, thanks to internet, thanks to the handheld device that we have, internet and the mobile phone is both a boon and a bane. In my younger days, there was nothing called email. So there was only the snail mail, or what you today call a gray mail, the other way. So, and when we left home and we told our parents that we're going to come back in the evening at 6 o'clock, my mother would only start worrying after 6:30. But today, with so much of information, or someone said, okay, let's go and do thing, or we are planning about a project,
Right.
we would get enormous time to plan for it because we had to collect data, because data was not easy. But today the world is totally changed. While we are talking, you say something, I want to find out about what surety is. I just go to Google, internet, and I find all information. I don't need to wait. So you can never be short of information, and at the same time, you're flooded with it. So with these things happening, what does it happen? Like we talked about, end of the day, we are depleted. We feel maybe not connected, or you want to get out of it, and you are so drained out that your brain is no more thinking creatively. That's our current reality. So keeping these situation in mind came in, Tony Schwartz. Tony Schwartz is a very well-known American journalist. He worked for the New York Times. He worked for the Yorkshire Times. He was one of the top reporters there. And so way back in around 2000, he started this feeling or the need to understand why employees are not doing well. And it took him a couple of years. And in 2003, he came up with a project where he wanted to go ahead and do a research to find out why employees are not energetic, or how do they manage their energies to maximize their productivity. So he did about 12,000 people across 73 countries. And you can see what was the result that he found out that most of the people said they don't sleep enough. They regularly felt irritable. They were anxious, struggled to focus on more than one thing at a time. And their biggest other concern was that they spent too little time on their strengths and passion, which means things that they were really good at, is where they felt that this was. So here what we will do is we will quickly see video which tells us how.
Since the Industrial Revolution over 200 years ago, the prevailing spirit of companies has been more, bigger, faster. Now more than ever before, in a world of increasing demand and diminishing resources, we're working longer hours, constantly tied to email and struggling to do more with less. It's not sustainable. Human beings aren't meant to operate like computers at high speeds continuously for long periods of time. Working this way exacts a series of significant costs, including progressive exhaustion, less capacity for focused attention, less time to think reflectively and long term. Ultimately, we're in danger of burning out. In 2003, the Energy Project was created to offer a different value proposition, combining observation of the practices of great performers, including world-class athletes, ICU surgeons and nurses, and FBI agents, with scientific research from a variety of disciplines and consultation with Fortune 500 companies around the world. The Energy Project developed a detailed blueprint for fueling a sustainably high-performing organization. Science tells us that human beings perform at their best when they move regularly between expending and renewing energy across 4 dimensions: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Rather than trying to get more out of people, The most sustainable companies invest in meeting their employees' core needs so they're free, fueled, and inspired to bring the best of themselves to work every day.
So you heard that what are the key or the four real areas where we have our energies, and they are most important for us to get going. So we have something which is the physical energy, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. So this is a quote by Tony Schwartz, and I would like to read it out. And because this is something, if you can embed in your mind, it really helps you understand how do you manage your own energy and what manifests based on how you are thinking. So the more we take responsibility for the energy we bring to the world, the more empowered and productive we become. The more we blame others or external circumstances, the more negative and compromised energy is likely to be there. So which basically means that, in short, and it's a human tendency, when things go wrong, we kind of blame the environment, the people, or the people who could have supported. But things, when they're good, we don't go for it. But the more we start blaming for anything, especially the negatives that happen in our life, and we blame it to an external party, the more negative is our internal energy, because we are not able to find a solution how to handle that negative, and we just pass it on. So this is something very important for all of us to remember, that we should take responsibility for everything that happens to us and around us. These are the four quadrants that we are going to, pass on more and more, talk about, discuss in this, So let's look at, the four that we talked about. What is physical? So most important part for all of us to be performing, to be good, to achieve what we want to do, about all these four things, in my mind, some people might differ, but the physical health of an individual is number one prime. It's the prime requirement. If you're not physically totally fit, you cannot deliver to your potential. You can still deliver. There are a lot of people who are physically challenged and yet they've delivered fantastically. But had they been physically also fit, they would have possibly delivered much more. So that's where your fitness, how well you sleep, what kind of rest you take is very, very important. Second most important comes up is your emotional happiness. Are you happy? That's a question which all of us ask, and I think most of the time people answer it as, no, I'm not happy. Or some people say, yes, I'm happy. But how genuinely are you happy? Which means, are you feeling happiness from the core of your heart? And if you are happy, then your performance, your commitment to your work, to your assignment is always going to be much higher than what you would have normally been able to deliver.
I think while the definition of happiness could be very subjective, I think people should definitely understand that, it should have equal importance like sadness, because it's just an emotion. Like, not giving happiness a very high pedestal could also be something ill for your emotional well-being, because, we're almost in that rat race of getting things perfect, achieving things fast, and, running for that impact that, I want to create that impact, whether it's within my organization, or whether my friend circle, or whether in some social groups, right? I think giving equal importance to every emotion makes sense, like, whether it's sadness or happiness, because equilibrium at the end is managing, I think, the right kind of emotional well-being as well. Like, what's
Absolutely.
your take on that?
Yeah, sure, Abhishek. I think you pointed it very well. It's not the emphasis on just happiness, but how well you manage your emotion.
Correct.
That's very important. And it is, you said it, I think it was very apt that he brought in grief and sadness. Because if you don't grieve when you need to grieve, you get into emotional trauma. You have had a tremendous loss in your life, family, whatever could be. And if you don't grieve it, then that creates a permanent trauma in your mind.
Absolutely.
People suffer from childhood trauma because they have not grieved it. So, yes, that's how you go about handling emotion. Then from emotion, we move to mental. Some people might think that emotion and mental are similar, but they're not really. Emotion is a feeling. Mental is your ability to think how you're going to do it. Your ability to manage a situation, your your ability to visualize the future or plan for a very strategic movement or action plan for how and what you're going to do. So that's where the mental uh, energy comes, and that allows you to focus. Because nobody can do multitasking, nobody can do multi-focus. Whenever you're working actually in one segment only, while people say I can do multitasking, even a computer doesn't. A high-powered computer jumps between tasks very fast, so it looks like multitasking. So to be able to focus is what you need, and that's where you need your mental energy. Spiritual is not religious. This is something I always want to clarify and make clear, because a lot of people say spiritual, also, no, I'm not religious. Well, spiritual and religion have no connect at all. Spiritual is your inner being, how you're thinking, what's your purpose in life, how humane are you? That's what spiritual is all about. Are you a person who gives out more than thinking how much am I going to receive? So so there is a saying, or there is, while it is not only a saying, it's a fact that the more you give, the more you receive. Some people react to say that, how do I give if I have not received? So you must be born with something. So give that, a little portion of that, and see how much more comes back to you. So that's what spiritual uh, energy or spiritual uh, being is all about.
Could that also mean that one needs to sort of introspect and harvest before giving something to someone? Like, it's important that I first go and identify what I can give. And if
Yeah.
there's absolutely nothing that I can find, I think that's where the element of spirituality, soul searching, purpose driven, that sort of thing comes in, right? Like where you're harvesting something within to give something to someone else.
Absolutely. So, many times you think, I have nothing to give, and you just give it up. But I'm just saying it another way. Someone says, sorry, you can only move out of this room
Correct.
when you give something. Then you start looking inside deeper, and that's again part of human nature. It's very easy to say, I don't have anything, or I
Correct.
have nothing to give. Or on the other side, there are people who say, you will find a lot of birthday parties, wedding, and all. They say, please, no gift.
Right.
Don't bring gift. Now, the thing is, why are you denying anybody from giving what they want to give? You may not need it. That's perfectly fine. But it is their giving, their feeling of giving is what you're depriving. So don't do that. That's point number one. Two is, all that you receive, and if you don't need any of it, then further give it away. Then your giving also comes up. So that's how you fill your bank of from where you will give. So I very strongly feel, and I tell people whom I know well, and if they say, please don't bring presents, I said, you have the right of not inviting me, but you do not have the right of telling me don't bring presents.
Correct.
I will bring. You might be a billionaire, and I give you a small, low-priced.
Maybe it's of no meaning to you what I
Yeah,
give. But then
but that's my feeling.
correct,
No,
absolutely.
so please accept it, and then you can pass it on. Give it to your maidservant or driver or any other person. That's fine. So that's where your giving comes. So you have to receive. So don't stop receiving anything that comes your way.
So the key is that, receive, because you're also creating a pool or a bank for yourself. And it could be
Absolutely.
receiving of knowledge, receiving of material things,
Anything.
receiving of anything, in fact.
Yeah, like all those who are sitting today, and I'm sure, with questions and all, I learn every day. And I learn in my last 35 years of corporate life, I think 20, 25 years, I have learned more from people younger than me than I've learned from people who are more experienced from, me. Even today, my children teach me much more than I learn myself. Yeah, so we will keep moving. I think we also have time to look at. So let's look at what is physical energy. We talked about physical energy being important. So yes, it gives us stability. Now, energy, as we discussed, keeps depleting, or we need to manage it. So there are ways of, managing your energy, getting your energy back. One, sugar, all of us know, sugar and caffeine gives us a boost. But then that is a temporary boost. You cannot sustain it. It is not sustainable. The other time is when we want to blank out or we want to relax, we switch on the TV, or we, alcohol, which many places is taboo, but that's it. So you take a sleeping pill. But again, these are not sustainable. These kind of energy boost or thinking that you're resting, is not really the right or correct. When you want to energize yourself, one is that, yes, go out, you play, you have fun with people, do some exercise. Exercise is one of my favorite energy boosters. When I work out, I come back, though I have worked out for an hour, I come back fully charged and I'm ready to go for another few hours. So that's something you can sustain. You can play, you can exercise, you can look for others. These are just few examples. And at the same time, when you need to relax, compared to TV, alcohol, sleeping pills, or whatever, listening to nice music, sleeping, taking a nap between, when we talk about breaks, when you take a break, you're going out. I think most of the people in the corporate world, unfortunately, will go out and take a cigarette or have coffee and whatever. So it is not really helping you chill and relax. And the next one, of course, when you are exhausted, having worked for 15 days, 1 month on a project, you need a break. So go on a vacation. So, so what spike and numb, they don't. You see, the numb word itself is saying it is taking control out of you. You become numb. But when you're chilling, life is good. And I think today's world, everybody says chill. So you got to chill in the genuine sense. So the next is your emotional energy, which is, we talk about security. What is emotion? Emotion is all about how secure you are. And that security can come in various forms. It could be the people around you. It could be your financial security. It could be job security, anything. So all of us want to be secured. We don't want to face danger or be under a dagger all the time, so that's why when people walk into a construction site wearing helmet and other protective, they feel much better than going without all of that. So we, by nature, we want to be secured. Now when we talk about that, what happens in our emotional energy? How does it get depleted? What I heard in the beginning, the number of hours that you put in, each one of you, and especially Abhishek, I'm pointing at you, is that you actually are in the burnout zone. You're burning yourself, where at the end of it, you will land up empty. And I'm not, accusing you, but I'm just saying that that is the tendency.
It's a fact.
Yeah, because you are working so much. Next, you are in that survival mode that I have to do this much, and then only I get into some kind of, so you get very defensive. You, in work, you are impatient because you say, oh God, if I don't do it right now, my manager or someone is going to shout at me, let me finish it. Though the manager actually, or the client actually could be looking at it only after 2 hours, but you are in that stress mode, emotionally you're not secured, and you are trying to do everything right now. Things don't happen.
People don't take leaves and holidays because of this a lot of times.
So,
And they end up, reducing the quality of work, but just because they are burnt out, but they still keep working in a fear of losing the job, probably.
absolutely. And, I used to work for a Swiss company. We had 26 leaves per year,
Okay.
and there was no carry forward.
Okay.
And if you don't take leave in 3 months, then 7 days, even if you come, it is considered, you're not marked present. And your manager was responsible to see to it that every quarter, 7 days you're off. So 7 fours are 28. So that's the 28 formula.
I think that's the kind of culture people should build.
Yeah. So go ahead and build it in your organization. And then when the next comes is, you're exhausted, you work out, and then you got to get into the renewal zone. From burnout, you have to move to this, and you get into renewal, where you start telling yourself, what I'm doing is fine. The time I'm taking to deliver is okay. There is no stress, and you behave in a more, I will not say subdued, but less of high energy. You're not anxious. You're controlled in your energy. That's when you actually start replenishing the energy that you have spent through the day. And then comes the next phase, which is your performance zone. So you guys got to brand yourself. Where do you fit in? I will do it for Abhishek. He is in zone 1. And others got to look at it and see, where do you really fit in? So again, just a quick one. So here, what you really, also got to look at it, how does the security come in? That how far we feel accepted and valued. How many of you think that, as an organization, or your peers, or your managers, or the management has accepted you as a team member or a member of the organization, and they value your contribution? How well are you positioned there? Do you have any, doubts there? Because that is where your emotion gets triggered and insecurity creeps in. If you think your manager doesn't like you, you will never be able to deliver. Or the management or others don't think what you contribute is of great value. These are the, biggest pointers or triggers to make you insecure or secure. So the third one was mental energy. What is mental energy? Mental energy is how well do you express yourself and what is the need for that. And this also gets, broken into 4 kind of states or zones, you may say, where we look at that, how do I spend my mental energy? So am I a reactive person, or is my mind scattered, which is never focused and thinking of multiple things while I'm sitting and doing this webinar? My mind is also working on the next webinar or what's going to happen tomorrow. Or we are always in a war zone or a tactical zone, where we are thinking, oh God, this has to be done. Hook or by crook, I need to do it. So everything around me, I block, and I'm in a, like what we talk about, a 0-degree bombing area. So I have to go do a precision bombing and come back. So are we thinking like that? Are we using our mental energy in that manner? And then are we always thinking of the big picture? We are not connected to the real life, the reality. We keep jumping to the big picture. So this is a quick one. How does it go? So when you are in the reactive one, there your control is low and your attention is very high. You have reacted. Someone said something to you, so your attention to what was said is very high, and you don't have control over your mental energy, and you react to it. So that's where it goes. So you are actually not doing what you're supposed to do. You are just doing something out of the blue. Then when your control is high and your attention is low, is when you start thinking, oh wow, I just might get promoted, my salary might become 3 times, or this business will grow, this solution will happen. So these are again areas where you really don't know. You're disconnected from the reality. Very focused and mindful, very high on control, high on attention. Here, things happen when you are too focused and you're not really looking at the environment and others. And the example given, I'm sure all of you will understand it very well. When you're going for a job interview, you are not bothered about anything else. You're just thinking of that interview and so on. And when you come out, or the interviewer asks you that while you are entering, do you remember how many were sitting in the reception? 9 out of 10 people will have no clue because you were so. And the fourth area is where what we call a flow, which is your focus is great. You have understood what you need to do. And you are not so much engaged about what is happening to you, but you're more focused on what the work is being doing and what you are an expert about. So when you're doing things and you engage yourself with what you're an expert, is where the flow comes. And the next slide explains it very well. So when the degree of challenge is high, your skill is low, you get into anxiety. When your challenge is greater than skill. The other is when your skill is lesser than the challenge. You are a great, you are you can fly Boeing 777, and instead you're given a what do you call a small Bombardier to fly. So you said, what is this? So then you create boredom. When your challenge commensurates your skill, that's when you actually start driving and delivering. You get full positive strength and it flows like no one's business. Spiritual, not religious, So we again come back and talk about it. We did touch on it. So it is more to do with, what is your inner purpose? What's your purpose? What's your inner being all about? When I used to interview and recruit people, I would look at the quality of the human being and not their skills, because skills, I can always upskill them. I can train them. But if your inner being is not good, if you're not a good human being, it's very difficult to make you a good human being. So
and I think, honestly speaking, that's what everyone looks for today. I mean, skills definitely do matter. The right tool set matters. The right mindset matters. But it's so important for people to come out and show that you are really genuine. If you are, of course, you should go and tell it to your recruiter if you're really sitting for a job interview, or if you're really trying to get in touch with someone or work with them. I think showing what you really are and being your real self really helps. And I think this is so important when we talk about energy management, because your entire body's energy is dependent on how driven you are with yourself, with your own being. So I think that's so well pointed out. I think that's my takeaway from this session so far. I really loved this point that you highlighted.
Yeah, and you are also picking up, I would say, Abhishek, that at the right point you're interjecting and bringing in, because this is something which unfortunately is not focused or
Right.
not given priority. People will discard you eh, with in your resume itself because you don't have the requisite skills. You know,
Absolutely.
EY today means with I have
Permission.
permission
Yes.
for them from them to speak. They
Okay.
have stopped, looking at resumes. They first say that okay, this is the job profile. If you're interested and if you think you're fit, come and meet us. And that's when they look at the human part of it, their other skills, and
Right.
if they are happy with it, then they go for the resume to see rest of it. So that's something amazing they've done. So yeah, spiritual energy is something which is really, really great. So these are the 4 quadrants that we look at in the spiritual thing. Personal well-being, healthy relationship, successful career, and giving back. you know so the first and most important is personal, and we say love thyself before you love others, because if you don't know how to love yourself, how can you love anyone else? you know so that's how it is. The investor bankers or these guys who come and teach you about how to invest, the first question you should ask them is how much have you invested. They will tell you at least invest 25% of your salary. And you ask that guy, he says, where I don't have that much salary. Now, if you are not able to do it, everybody has the same feeling. So the first and foremost is get into your personal well-being, get into developing yourself, physical fitness, most critical. Then relationship. If your relationship at home is not good, it can never be good at work or can never be good outside. So you should learn how to maintain, and how important is it for you to have good relationship. This also takes you to your success in your career. What are the learnings through relationship, through loving yourself? You do, I don't know, means I can just ask a question and again we can get into our thing. How many of you have set realistic goal? I'm not saying practical, realistic goals. You have it written somewhere and you're following it. And the part of your journey and the current job that you're doing falls in that, path of your final goal. You could be, one of you could be having a goal of owning Onsurity, or forming another company like that. I'm sorry, because I speak from the larger one, because no company is the only company. It has never been.
Correct.
Every company, first you came up, there will be 5. And if your company is being copied, imitation is the biggest form of flattery. So if someone says, hey, I want to quit your company and start a similar one myself,
Right.
I think that's the best way you would have been thanked or appreciated. So, how many of you really have a career plan? How many of you really have goals in life? Have you written it down? Do you measure it every day? You know, so that's very important. These are all part of your spiritual well-being. And then, of course, what we talked about, helping others, helping a cause, creating, like with the bamboo behind you, you're bringing in the sustainability. At least you have a picture of bamboo. I hope you start growing bamboo soon. You know. So this is all about spirituality. And this is something which all of you will love. And you will also agree that you're not into it. The ultradian rhythm, it's a, it's an embedded rhythm in every human being. And it's more or less the same for everyone, which basically says that we have a particular rhythmic form like our heartbeat. It goes da 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 da, whether it beats 60 times or 70 times, some. So, but that So so this is something you and I do not have the option of changing. It's part of the human DNA, not individual DNA. And what does it say? It says this is how it moves. That you start from a state of, you know, I would say relax. Then you move into, you slowly start working. You peak at 45 minutes and then you come down at 90 minutes. So what this says is that every 90 to 120 minutes, you must take a break of at least 20 minutes. So as I mentioned, I used to work for this Swiss company. We had our timings were 8 to 10, then 10 to 10:20 is a break. And then again you go back, then 10:20 to 12:30 you work, 12:30 to 1:30 is lunch, and then again 1:30 to 3:30, and 3:30 onwards it was free because by 4 people would start going back. So
I'm not sure how the post-COVID world looks like, but I think there are a couple of institutes that do have periodic breaks, not just work institutes, but educational institutes too, that have sort of 20-minute periodic breaks between each lecture, which could be like I'm just guessing, it could be like a relatable example to think of, probably why it's essential for a student to consume knowledge better. Could be a fact. I'm not sure. Probably.
Abhishek, you're right. Means it just reminded me of my school days. I don't know how it used to happen. We would have 8 classes, periods in a day, so 4 and 4. But after 2 periods, first and second, we would have a 10-minute break, which was, then we would have a lunch break, then again 2, and again a 10-minute break. That was our school, timetable like. And I'm sure it was based out of, this logic, this ultradian rhythm.
Could say, I think we can validate
to
us how we validated, but it's totally true. I think this.
So all of you who work more or do not take a break after more than 2 hours, get into a habit of taking it between 1.5 to 2 hours. And when you take a break, it should be a break. You should not go out in the coffee corner and again talk about work. Then you're not really resting. That's not a break. You should totally talk about non-work. You can gossip about the management, do whatever you feel like, because coffee
corner shifts in the energy quadrant to keep it like.
You have to come out of what you are doing.
You can do anything in that 20 minutes, probably meditate, go out for a walk, listen to music, just change your energy quadrant, basically.
Absolutely. So that's what is very, very critical. So where are you putting your focus? Now, this is something, again, it's actually a poll that I would put in, but how many of you are putting your focus on physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual?
Guys, you can put it down on chat. Just say 1, 2, 3, or 4 in case you don't want to type.
Yeah, correct.
Too much. 1 for physical, 2 for emotional, 3 for mental, and 4 for spiritual. Where do you think is your most energy spent on? 3. Okay, we have mental capacity from Narayan. Deepshika says emotional. All right. Irfan for mental. I think mental for me as well.
Okay, so for the paucity of time, we will not spend too much time, but this is something which, Abhishek, you guys can carry on and take. And these people everybody put your honest answer. What is most important in any questionnaire, any poll is honesty.
Yes.
Because no one knows you better than you.
Absolutely.
So quickly, we just catch up on what are the 4 quadrants. Emotional energy, take control of your emotion, recognize your emotion. Breathing is a huge, powerful tool that we have. especially whether we are sad, whether we are angry. And for anger, that is the best, I would say, that if you have really lost it, just take deep breath. It helps you, calm much faster than anyone else doing anything for you. Similarly, for spiritual, so what it basically says is that you should, your interruptions of what you're doing, and sorry, not spiritual, I'm talking about the mental, should be that is what you got to control. Multitasking, as I said right in the beginning, is actually a myth. Even computers which multitask, they actually have multiprocessors. So we never multitask. I claim, if I claim I multitask, which means I can switch between tasks very well. But at a given point of time, I'm only doing one task. So when we try to do multitasking, we lose productivity by 25% because that's the time it takes from switching from A task to B task. And again, these are some points. Stay away from time wasters. Someone who says, and gossip corners. Our gossip corners are very much there. And I used to see, again, I will say, I'll compare because I work with a lot of multinationals. The biggest difference between we as Indians, why we work 10 to 12 hours versus why the Europeans especially never work more than 6 hours is because those 6 hours, they purely work. If I have to go and get a document signed from Abhishek, I will not just go there and get it signed. I will get signed and Abhishek will say, oh, batao kya hua? And I will say, what is happening? And I'll sit down. Chalo, let's have a coffee. So we spend 15 minutes of absolute useless time, whereas it needed only 30 seconds for Abhishek to sign the document. So those kind of time wasters. Physical energy. Take a break, as we talked about. Sleep 7 to 8 hours. Wake up early in the morning, no matter what happens. There's nothing as pure and beautiful as morning. I've been trying to tell my wife for 30 years. She doesn't believe it. She believes life is much better at 10 a.m. But believe me, 5 o'clock in the morning, which she does now, means if she was around, she would have killed me because she goes for yoga at 6 in the morning.
Okay.
And completely life changes. And spiritual, get spiritual. Spiritual is not religion. So do get spiritual. So this is a kind of, a capture of what we are saying. I would read it out because, so when we increase our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual capacities, we also increase our capacity to generate more value. And that's what we are talking about. We, in one of the slides, we talked about, are we valued enough? So we are always wanting to be valued more and more. That's again a human instinct that we want to value people or get valued by, by people. So, so the key optimal sustainable peak performance is to alternate rhythmically between activity and rest. You see in one of the slides, we talked about, that high performance and then you go and chill. So the ultradian rhythm also says you peak for 2 hours, you work, and then rest. Fill up. It's like simple thing means you have, your tank needs to be filled. Your mobile phone, which is our lifeline nowadays, it has to be recharged. You cannot expect it to carry on working for days without resting it. And if you use it and recharge it, then also it doesn't charge as well. While you're talking, you're watching a video on it and you're putting it on charge, it doesn't get charged fully. So take your rest serious, renew and come back with full energy for the next one. It's a quick one. Is it mindful or mindful? Is your mind full of things or are you mindful of things? One of my favorite is Hara Achibu, which I talk about even people who are trying to lose weight. eat until you are 80% full. So even, work until you are 80% depleted, 20% should be there. A totally depleted battery doesn't get fully charged. That's how your battery charge also. And if you are also from the physical side, you should stop eating while you're still hungry. That's how your extra energy that you have, calories that you have consumed, will be burnt by your system. And find a good reason to put your phone down. I'm sure many of us here in this are also every 2 minutes looking at the phone, has any message come or what has happened. But find a reason. Go to a place where there is absolutely no phones, possible. Or just imagine if your phone breaks down, then what do you do? That's the time you manage yourself. So make it a habit of managing yourself without a phone. This is the synopsis or what the energy project really gave us. We are our best when we move between expending energy and intermittently renewing it. Our 4 core energy needs: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So we are talking about renewing not just the physical, not just the mental, but all 4 of them. We need to, when we use it, we need to renew it, we need to replenish. And when you're intent on supplying fuel to each of the dimension of the energy is clear, is good, you're obviously creating happier people, happier organization, and that's where you get your success.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sudhir.
Yeah. So I will so these are, we will skip to this. And just one recommendation here, that this is a book, try and read. The Way We Are Working Isn't Working, by Tony Schwartz. Yep. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sudhir. I think that sort of brings us to the end. And now we'll begin with the Q&A session. So guys, please do feel free to put down your questions for Sudhir in the chat below, and we will answer them. We had one question that came between the session. So someone says many managers blame the newcomer for the assistant manager's fault. How to deal with this as a newcomer? Like, what sort of a energy translation would you sort of recommend, or what kind of an approach would you recommend to this person?
No. So, okay, just many managers blame a newcomer for.
So if a newcomer is an assistant manager, right?
Okay.
And something that he or she probably hasn't done and is still being blamed for by your senior manager, right? How would you, sort of help that kind of a person take a better approach to the problem?
Are you talking about the manager or the assistant manager?
The assistant manager.
Yeah. So when you get a raw deal, and unfortunately, it's very common, I'm sure, or it happens. It happens because the other person is under similar pressure or bigger pressure from his or her higher up. So it all actually comes from the top.
Right.
But having said that, how, as the individual who's getting hit at that moment, how do you do that? What do you do? One is, don't react. Take a deep breath and think, why, what was the reason possible this person said whatever he or she said, which made you feel hurt, upset, or unhappy. And then once you have understood that, then go back to your manager and say that, I understand you the other day told me this. And yes, I did. Somewhere you have to accept a little bit of fault on your part, because that's how you open the mind of the other person. This is that, yes, I believe I could have done it better. And I would definitely, look at more support from you and input to help me perform better, or, be more clear about what you are expecting from me. Maybe there is a disconnect. I think I'm supposed to do ABCD, and I'm doing ABCD, whereas you are not happy with it. So can you tell me what more, or where am I missing it? So when you go with an approach of, wanting to learn, looking for support and looking up to that person, the person has to come down and help you, will change their approach. But if
Absolutely.
you simply go back and say, oh, you've been such a pain, you are so unfair to me,
Correct.
that would be possibly the pink slip for you.
So I think right communication matters. And
Right communication matters, and you got to accept. Please let us all understand, people above are people above, and human beings have ego,
hmm,
and we need to. I need this job, so I don't want to lose it. But at the same time, I don't want to become a doormat that everyone comes and wipes on me. But I need to establish my position. So
correct.
yes, I'm willing to learn. So tell me where did I go wrong, or what more are you expecting? I hope that helps.
Yes, I hope that answered the question. Thank you so much, guys. I think we haven't gotten more questions, so we'll end the Q&A round now. Thank you so much, Sudhi, for taking out the time and sort of enlightening us on such a great topic. I think before we started the webinar, it really kind of felt like a complex thing, but towards the end, I think a lot of clarity was achieved per se. And I think this is one of the sessions where I kind of felt very enlightened, to be frank. And it's always great to have speakers like you come and talk about things that we ideally don't get to see it on the internet, right? Because there's a lot of self-reflection that goes into that presentation that you make, right? And the kind of anecdotes that you shared and the real life experiences, I think that sort of makes me really, appreciate your time today. It's been a wonderful session. Thank you so much, Sudhir, once again. And one nickel of an advice to everyone who's joined us today. This might be helpful or might not be helpful to you, but this is something that I picked up from today's session. And I think all of us should definitely look into it is while you try to manage your energies, right? While you're trying to be productive, while you're trying to improve your performance, whether at work or at home, try to find out some me time, right? It's very important for you to spend time with self, right? Nobody's asking you to go and love yourself or do extremely things that are at a very different extreme for you, right? Probably start small, spend some time with yourself, right? Take out solitude, that really helps you introspect about yourself, and you're actually exploring some quadrants within you that helps you achieve all of spiritual, physical, emotional, and other well-beings, right? So do take out time today after your work or after your daily schedule. Take out some time to just spend some me time, right? Take that solitude, do nothing at all, probably not even open your digital devices, just sit and introspect, sit and reflect, and think about today's session, right? Think about what you learned from it, and do get back to us if you have any more doubts. Feel free to reach out to Sudhir on LinkedIn. And you can always go to Manoshala, because they've been like a huge partner for us now. And every week when we have someone from Manoshala, it's just a very enlightening session. So I would request all of you to please feel free to reach out to Manoshala for your organizations too. And it's going to be a great journey, right? Thank you so much once again for joining this well-being webinar with us. And we'll get back again on next Wednesday. If you liked our session, please go put it up on LinkedIn, share your reviews with us, and check out our session on YouTube, which will get uploaded after 48 hours. If you've missed anything at all, or if not, you can also, sort of share it to your friends and family. I will not ask you to go like, share, and subscribe, because that's something everyone does.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, Sudhir. It was very, very, very good having you. And thanks for all the observations you made about the bamboo. I think that sort of, got us a lot of insight into how you look at things, right? So yeah, that's all. Thank you so much.
So I too had a great time. And I think I wish all of you, and again, your summation, me time is so critical. Me time is so critical.
Absolutely.
And, that's not being selfish. That is being self-recognizing, respecting yourself. So all the best. I'm sure you guys will rock it. All the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sudhir.
All right. Take care.